Today, we're very fortunate to have on the show Harry Hunsicker, best-selling author of crime thrillers, and we'll talk more about that going forward. Welcome to Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance, the Henry Harrison podcast. And we have had another author on the show, and we've had different types of business people from the Cato Institute, which is actually, of course, a nonprofit business, but it is a business. And this is a second career, at least, for Harry. And we'll talk more about what that means. But so he is in the business of becoming an author. I'm not sure he's comfortable calling it a business. That'll be kind of an interesting topic. But obviously, to get a publisher and sell books, you have to have the business aspect of it too. So, hello, Harry.
Hello, Henry. Thank you for having me. Henry Harrison and Harry Hunsicker meet on Zoom. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I think it might be your second nonprofit. I don't know how profitable writing is, but it pays a little bit. I have a good time doing it. So,
Well, so that leads right into we know each other through mutual friends, and we go to regular lunch together in Dallas, and I guess we've been to a couple parties together now
yeah.
with mutual people. And I was always intrigued because except for this other author that I have on the show, Diana Brewer, and she was a business author, so very different. And she had a consulting company that went with it, and so they played each other. But I know that it's so many people's dream, or they would just love to become an author, and just the thought of writing a whole book for, I think, many people is a challenging thing. So you are right now a best-selling author, and you're published your ninth book. It's right behind you there.
Right
The
there.
side.
Yeah. Just came out in October. Yes. Number 9.
It's available on Amazon and all the major places you can buy books. I've read it, and I have a complaint about that.
What's a
Yeah,
complaint?
I could not go to sleep because I wanted to read more chapters.
That's a
And
good
so
problem to
in the
have.
morning, I woke
That's,
up and I'm blaming Harry Hunsicker for,
I've got 8 more. You can wean yourself off or get more
there
of
you
the
go.
drug of your choice or whatever. This is
But
just the
really,
latest one.
really exciting and just interesting the way all the pieces fit together. And I was just intrigued all the way through. So
Well, good.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
writing.
Great. That's
Uh,
great.
so right now, you've got this book published. How did you get a someone to publish it for you? How do you get people to buy it? Word spreads. I mean, I know you said it's challenging, and I think everybody knows that.
It is challenging. It is very challenging. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who want to write a book, think they have a book in them, and God bless them. A large percentage maybe start a book, and then it's kind of winnows it down, gets smaller. Less percentage finishes the book, and then a less percentage finds someone to publish it, and so on and so forth. So it's this pyramid kind of a thing. But I always wanted to be a writer. I grew up in Dallas, and I was an only child, and so this was obviously before the days of internet and social media and video games. So I read a lot. I mean, that's what I did. I read a ton of books, and for whatever reason, as a child and a young person, I was always drawn to fiction, not nonfiction. And so I always, when I talk to people, they say, I want to write a book. I said, do you want to write a work of fiction or nonfiction? There's oftentimes a little bit of discussion about the difference between fiction and nonfiction. So I make things up. None of the stuff I write about is true. And so getting that type of a book published is different than getting a work of nonfiction published. So I grew up in Dallas. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a writer, and my family knew that I wanted to be a writer. So when I was 10 years, I started reading like See Dick Jane. I just devoured that, and the Hardy Boys and all that stuff like that. And I read wildly inappropriate stuff. When I was like 12 or 13, I read Sidney Sheldon's The Other Side of Midnight. And I don't know if you're familiar with that book. Most people now would call it kind of softcore erotica. Probably not appropriate for a 12 to 13-year-old boy, but gosh, I thought it was fun. I devoured it. But when I was 10 years old, they realized I was going to be a writer. So somebody gave me for Christmas a typewriter. And it was an old clickety clack kind, where the keys would get kind of tangled up if you hit too fast. And so I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. So for Christmas, I get this typewriter, and I decided I'm going to write a story. And I didn't know what I was doing. Obviously, didn't know anything, but I decided I'd write a screenplay. Now, I didn't know what a screenplay was, but I just thought I would. And I remember I used manila paper. You remember the construction paper that you used to draw on as a kid? I used manila paper. And the story was Christmas time. So I wrote about Mary and Joseph and the birth of baby Jesus. Only in my story, Mary and Joseph come to Dallas and give birth to baby Jesus. And then the twist on it was they come to Dallas, Mary gives birth to baby Jesus, and then they all go shopping at Neiman's. So that's kind of it kind of works on several different levels.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that was my first stab at writing, 10 years old.
well, I mean, one of the things that I found is that there were a lot of, I would call that was unexpected. That's not that story you just described. There were a lot of unexpected twists and turns, which makes the book very thrilling.
Oh, good.
And I haven't read the others yet because I'm now going to read some more fiction, but I was actually more into reading the nonfiction to this.
Sure. Most people are.
But
It's a different avenue. Yeah.
I'm really glad I did, and will continue. And so this is so you didn't become a writer right away.
I did not. I became a real estate appraiser.
Exactly how you would necessarily after college, because
I didn't know what to do. I thought about going to law school. I was a history major. I was not an English major. I was not a journalism major. Everybody always asks that. Did you study creative writing in college? I said, no. They didn't. Back when I went to college, I'm not going to say when, but probably around when you did, creative writing at the college level was not really a thing. I mean, a few places had it, but now you can't throw a rock without hitting a creative writing program at a college. But back then it wasn't a thing. So I was a history major and I thought I might go to law school and I didn't. And I ended up being a commercial real estate appraiser, which for those of you who don't know is for people who find accounting too exciting, you become a real estate appraiser. It's a great career and a steady thing. And for 30 some odd years, I don't even know how long.
So I found it interesting. So you call that your working career.
Yes.
And, I did buy your book. So you're a best-selling author. People are buying your book. So presumably somewhere somebody is, you're making some money there. So you could call that a second career. I think you're making jokes. Maybe it's not,
Yeah, no, it's definitely a second career. Most fiction authors have a day job. I mean, that's just the reality of the economics of it. It doesn't make enough to support you unless it's like 1991 and you're living in, Costa Rica or something.
So that's why
on the beach in a hut.
Retired from your more traditional career.
Yes.
And then you're now up to more of a dream, love.
Right.
Cycle,
well, I started writing. My first book came out 20 years ago this May. So 19 years and 11 months ago, my first book came out. So I did both careers simultaneously for 20 years, 18 years, 19 years, something like that.
Right. Got
it.
Okay. And did you also take some courses initially to help yourself?
I devoured creative writing how to write books, and that was an indication that I should write all along. In addition to reading fiction, which back there you can see all the fiction books, but over there is my how to write book section. And so one day, 20 plus years ago, I reached this point where I realized that this was the dream, was to write novels. And I realized that I think we all get to this point where you realize that there's only so many days left in your life. I mean, you've only got so much runway left. And I realized that if I want to achieve this dream or try this dream, I needed to get on it. So I took some continuing education classes in creative writing at the local university here in Dallas, SMU. And that kind of started me on the path.
When I see a name Lee Child in the back of your book, I think most people in the country probably know Jack Reacher and 100 million copies sold, and that's the author.
Right.
How do you get someone like Lee Child to say, "Oh, here's Harry Hunsicker. What a great book. Let me write an endorsement for him"?
So Lee's a friend. He's a great guy, and he is incredibly approachable. And he used to go to all the conferences I went to, and I just asked him. I mean, he was known for being open and wanting to help new people. And he's very friendly. He's kind of reserved English guy, but he's very friendly. And I asked him, and he agreed. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because I think that helps. I know that helps. That certainly helps from someone of his stature to help my career.
So it's the modern day now. Do you use any, you can't talk about anything, I guess, almost without AI. So
Without
you can,
AI, yeah, sure.
so you can write a book with AI, you just tell it to write your book and it writes a book.
Yeah, AI,
I
write
know
me a book.
it's not going to be like your book, I don't believe. But do you use any of that or that's not helpful?
I love AI. I love ChatGPT. I do not use it at all for writing or storytelling, but it is supplanted Google for me. I use Google a lot less now, like radically less now than I did a year ago. And I use ChatGPT because you can talk to it. You can pick up your phone and dictate in there and just, with Google, you had to come up with the right keywords and all that stuff. You could just have a conversation sort of with ChatGPT and get answers to your questions. So it's a phenomenal resource, I think.
Well, I noted that you, on your thank yous at the end, I call it, you thanked a lot of people that helped you with research. And
Yeah.
I imagine you could do some research on ChatGPT as well, but there's some of the people in there were pretty well known, I would say even famous, at least in Texas. So this book, is that normal? I mean, you did a lot of research, and I can see
So I
why,
didn't.
because it's
So no, that's not normal for me. It's normal for other people. Some people do a ton of research, some people don't. What I tell people when they ask that research question is my whole life has been research. I am a information sponge. I get up in the morning and I just suck in info and into my eyeballs and ears, now podcasts and stuff. But I devour information. I'm sort of a news junkie, and then I watch a lot of documentaries and I read whatever the equivalent of magazines are now. I used to read a lot of real magazines back in the day. I just consume a lot of information and have done that my entire life. And so when I'm wanting to write a novel, I think about maybe who the character is. And I thought, oh, that reminds me of somebody I read about in a magazine article 5 years ago, or a little nugget of information. And I use stuff like that. So I don't research per se, except that my entire life is research. Now, for this book, Life and Death of Rose Doucette, there's a fairly strong police procedural element to it and thing about the courts, stuff about the court systems in it and judicial systems. So I wanted to get that right. So I did some research and had some people I could ask questions about. And that helped a lot.
as you say, this is fiction, but those parts of the story are accurate because I guess you don't want to have fiction about how the court system works. I wouldn't think that would be a good
Uh,
idea.
I would
Um,
hope they're accurate. Yes, I think they are. I think they are. I have not gotten any hate emails about, well, you can't do that in a court of law. So,
well, I think, you know, there's a license obviously with fiction. Certainly on TV, there's a lot of stuff where you
oh, yeah.
can't do
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
But I found this to be, from my experiences, it sure seemed like it was the way it might work in the legal system. Whereas on TV, a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, nice story. That doesn't seem at all believable.
Right.
So, but there's a whole lot of imagination that goes into this book.
Yeah.
So where do you come up with all that stuff? Because I think many
Well,
people might have trouble with just imagining all these twists and turns and plots. And my God,
I spend a lot of time thinking about the story before I start writing. I do. The other question people always ask, do you outline these things? And I, over the years, have learned that I need to outline, and it's much better for me and for the people around me if I outline before I start writing. If I don't outline and I'm thinking, I tend to get kind of moody and unpleasant to be around. At least my wife says that. I don't know. So I've learned it's better to outline. And so I think up the twists and turns before I start and spend a lot of time thinking about the characters and what they would do and how they would react and that sort of thing ahead of time.
appearances, you really create a vivid picture from my perspective of what people look like and the details of their manner, voice, appearance, dress, size, weight, everything. Are you pretty observant guy? Or you just
Yeah,
imagine all
yeah.
that? Yeah,
Well, I make it up. I am observant. I watch people.
I
I
would think
like
you're
to
very observant.
I
Yeah.
like to sit in the corner and kind of see what's going on, or go to a coffee shop and listen to people talk, just kind of out of the corner of my ear. And I mean, that's most writers are that way. They just kind of like to let's see what's going on over there. What are they talking about? Yeah.
So I'm a heterosexual married man, but I gotta say, you look like an author. You got that gray flowing hair, kind of got
Thank you.
the Texas cool, jean shirt on,
Got the
with
denim
the
shirt.
study.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Texas writer, I don't know. I don't think I look like a writer, so I couldn't be one anyhow. I don't think a fiction writer, but
Oh,
I guess that you're just yourself. That's how you're comfortable dressing.
yeah.
You're not wearing
Right.
a
Right.
suit. You're not wearing a t-shirt.
No
You're
suit, no
from
t-shirt.
Texas. You live in Texas. You're
Hmm.
fourth generation, sixth generation. So,
Yeah,
you
fourth
look.
generation native of Dallas, which is kind of strange. Not many of those, but yeah.
So I guess is that how you've all? I mean, is that how you've always dressed, or did you change for hey, I needed my writer appearance, or
No,
how
this
did
is
you
kind of the way it
dress?
always was. I mean, I'm
Okay.
more business casual for day job stuff for when I was an appraiser, but I mean, clothing standards, I think, unless you're an attorney or some other banker kind of thing, even that it's kind of relaxed some. So it's more golf shirt and slacks, golf shirt and khaki kind of thing rather than sport coat or suit. We've kind of changed that a little bit. But yeah, this is what you see is what you get. I mean, that's kind of the way I've always been. Always love
That's
a good denim shirt.
it's a good look. Yeah, I think for a writer.
Thank you.
So and for you. So I looked up. So Republic of Texas was 1836. I didn't know that
Yeah.
off the top.
Mhm.
And the state 1845.
Yeah.
And sixth generation Texas. I know my father traced us back to when we had a relative come over on the Mayflower. So that was easy to track because the Mayflower people kept good records. But between Dallas and Texas, yeah, I don't know if I've ever met anyone that, at least that I'm aware of, that had that much lineage. So I
Um,
guess somebody in your family was keeping track or decided to go
somebody
back.
was, yeah. My great grandmother was born in 1868 in what is now East Dallas. I don't know how many of your listeners are from Dallas, but she was born at the end of Fisher Road. Her family name, my great grandparents were named the Fishers, and they started a little village called Fisher, and Fisher Road, which is still in East Dallas, ran into Fisher, the village, and then it that's where she was born in 1868, and so that's the start of my family being here. But she did not. Fisher, the village didn't last very long. I mean, Dallas swallowed it up pretty soon. But the road to the Fisher village, the Fisher farm, still remains.
Fisher Road, sure, been there many
Yeah,
times. And the history of Dallas. I mean, so for those of you that haven't yet read the book, hopefully you'll be purchasing it soon. But yeah, a lot of it's in Dallas, or maybe almost all of it is in
all
Dallas.
of it
So
is. Yeah,
So if you're not from Dallas, it's kind of cool because you get to learn about Dallas and Texas and that whole experience. And if you're from Dallas, it's kind of, or you've been to Dallas, it's kind of cool because, oh, I know where that is. Oh, I know where that is. So that's an interesting mix of the fiction, but it's not you haven't created a whole new city named something.
no, no, I couldn't do
Else.
that. I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's maybe it makes it more real to me
Yeah.
because I knew the places. And I think even if you don't know the places, you could look them up or whatever. So let's talk about the genre. So you want to become a writer. I mean, you could write poetry, right? You could write history. You could write, a lot of
Yeah,
different
well,
things.
I
How
didn't
to,
want to. I didn't want to write poetry. I didn't want to write history. I wanted to write fiction from the get go. That was always the dream. Not. It's not being a writer. It's writing fiction. Now I've done some magazine stuff over the years, but I don't have a nonfiction book in me. I don't think. I don't know
and
what
how
it would be
about
about.
as far as the fiction? Were all the books crime thrillers?
So interestingly, yes, they all are in the broad term of. It depends on what day of the week and who you're talking to, whether they're mysteries or thrillers. But I call them crime thrillers because they hopefully are page turners, and there's always a mystery whodunit kind of element to them. So yeah, I've always written in this genre.
We talked about this before, but yeah, my mom. I mean, hit mystery books are one of the oldest, I guess, forms of fiction. For some reason,
Yeah,
it's always very captivating. And my mom always had a stack of mystery books beside her bed that she'd read herself to sleep with. And so I think most people understand mysteries, and many times they revolve around a crime, maybe almost
right.
all the time.
Hmm.
And then I guess the thriller is maybe some of them are a little more maybe calming, not as this one is a thriller. Like you want to get to the next
Yeah,
page. Something
good,
big is
good.
happening. And so yeah, like if you want to be engaged, it's a good one to jump in, that's for sure.
Yeah. So
Um,
the traditional definition is a mystery is you're trying to find out who done it, and thriller is who done it. You're trying to stop them from doing it again. That's kind of the definition, but there's a lot of overlap, and so I say crime thriller.
and when you come up with a story, I'm just trying to think of, so you have an idea of the story, so you do an outline. What about the craft of just writing the sentences, and does that require a lot of going back and
An enormous amount of going back. Writing, as the saying goes, is writing is rewriting, and that's the truth. That requires a ton of back over and over and over again, going over the same stuff you've written and it just polishing and getting better. And it's amazing after this long that I'm still doing that, but you never quite get past, you never write anything perfectly the first time. And the more I do this, the more I write from storytelling and from craft level, the more I realize how little I know about it, which is keeps challenging, certainly.
so what would you say to people that want to go for their dream like you have? Keep a
Well,
full-time job
go,
first?
what?
Keep a full-time job first, or
Well, I mean, it depends on what your dream is, but
yeah,
I mean, if you've got a dream, go for it. You've only got so much time left. Even if
it's,
you're
it's
25, it's limited.
so it's pretty neat to hear about someone that has something they want to do when they're a kid and is living it. What was the day when you said, okay, and you mentioned, getting older, realizing almost such time left. What was that trigger?
I don't
Like you
know.
said, I'm going to do it.
I think, well, I got married kind of late, and my wife was a big influence, and she was very supportive of me. Said, this is what you want to do, go for it. And so that was a help. I had someone who could kind of back me up on that, and that was a huge, huge help. And then I started pursuing this after the new millennium, after the year 2000. I mean, that's a big change psychologically. It's leaving one millennium for a new millennium, 1 century for a new century, and so that kind of was a trigger too. And then I was coming up on my 40th birthday, and I thought, well, I got to get on this.
What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome? Is it normal? Because everybody's
Well,
had it.
so again, the pyramid thing. This many people want. This many people want to write a book. This many people start a book. This many people finish a book, and then you had this plateau where what do you do with the book? Well, you try to find a publisher, and to find a publisher, you need to find an agent. And so this many people send out letters trying to reach an agent, and then they instantly get rejected because that's the nature of the game is rejection. So a slew of people who finish a book drop out at that point. And then you have to keep going, and then you keep going on the pyramid. So a word here, I early on decided that I did not want to self-publish my books. So I wanted to find a publisher who would pay me, and I didn't want to pay someone else to publish the books. So if you want to do that, you have to find an agent. To find an agent, you have to write this thing called a query letter. And that's we could talk another hour about that. And I don't think that would be that interesting, but it's essentially the back jacket copy. It's like the jacket copy on a hardback novel is what a query letter is. So you send it out to agents. And so I learned a fair amount about persistence and resilience through that process because I kept detailed records. I sent out 117 query letters, and I was rejected well over 100 times before I found somebody who would take me on. And then he sold the book, and here we are. So I'm condensing. That was almost a 2-year process of sending out all those letters.
I mean, it's easy to, from my standpoint, understand because I've certainly heard a lot of people talk about just anecdotally in the press, whatever, want to write a book. And this was before there were so many AI, ways that you can
Right.
write books that aren't really your own. But even then, I don't know if it makes it any easier necessarily. Yeah, how do you find that one person? So 2 years. So perseverance, really wanting to do it
Right.
and working hard and working hard.
And working hard. Yeah. and not getting discouraged. And it's easy to get discouraged, but it's kind of a sales thing. I mean, it's a numbers game. It's if you got to knock on 100 doors to get 10 people to open the door, and then get one person to say yes to the sale, kind of a deal. So it's a numbers game. It's cold calling, selling, basically.
So if you were going to characterize your books, your writing style, your difference, your unique quality, I mean, I could just say I love the book. I'm not sure I could do a broad-based comparison. How would you say that?
Say what now? What? Say again?
You're writing your books compared to other fiction books in similar genre.
Oh, mine need to sell more. Compared,
Did you model after someone or anybody you'd like to be, or how do you be your authentic self, get it on paper, and therefore create something special? That's
every book I try to be my authentic self. I try to write a book I would like to read. First of all, I try to finish it, which is a big step. Finishing a book that makes sense. 300 pages of doing this for 300 pages is daunting. So anybody who's ever done it and finished is my hat's off to them. But I try to write a book that I'd like to read. That's kind of the way I approach it.
Makes perfect
sense.
Do
I do that every time? Yes, with hesitancy in my voice, he said. But it's a road. Life's a hard road, but I mean, this is a hard road too. To start a book, to finish a book, to revise a book, to find a publisher. I mean, it's a daunting task. So you have to do it. You have to really love it to do it.
Some ways I compare it to trying to be a professional musician or something. It's like
exactly
everybody wants to do it,
right? But it's a lot of work. You got to put the time in. You got to Malcolm Gladwell that thing for 10,000 hours or whatever the.
I like that expression. Malcolm Gladwell's book,
right?
Outliers, I think it was. That most people need to invest at least 10,000 hours in their chosen career/trade. There's a lot of history to that. Well, and 300 pages in college, I remember thinking a 10-page turn paper was a heck of a thing.
So I do too.
Multiply that by 30 and tie it all together and edit it, come up with the ideas. And that is a daunting task. But I'm glad you said that I think you're a modest guy, not confident, but modest. And you want to read all your books. They're great books. And I think you're proud of them. Should be.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure you can pick them apart, too, because you're probably pretty critical of your own work.
I'm very critical. Yeah, I look back at the old ones and I'm going, what were you thinking? What is this? But you just try to get better with each one and learn more with each one and keep going.
Well, they can start with The Life and Death of Rose Doucette.
Please do.
Go back from there.
Available wherever books are sold.
And in addition, you can know that it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of hard work. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us on a daily basis.
It is a good lesson. If anybody wants to buy the book, I've got a list of where it's available. You can go to Amazon or anywhere to get it, but I've got it on my website. You can visit there. It's harryhunsicker.com, HarryHunsicker.com. And you can ping me with an email or sign up for my newsletter or my book or whatever.
And you have a publicist as well on your website, I saw, and you also have that social media presence.
Yes, that's increasingly important, they say.
Yeah. Well, this was really terrific. I think people are going to be very interested to meet you, hear about what it's like to become an author, successful author, published author of 9 books, best-selling author, and really neat. And someone that's
thank you.
That since he was a kid and made it happen.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
So thanks a lot, Harry.
All right. Thank you.